Before we jump into this week's episode of Major Pain, I will remind you that I am not a medical professional. Please do not take any medical action based off what you hear on this podcast without first consulting your doctor.
I didn't know there was a whole community behind being chronically ill.
It doesn't just become a story of disability, because that's really a universal story.
We got to be strong. We have no choice but to be strong.
Welcome to Major Pain. I'm your host, Jesse Mercury, and this week we have a very exciting guest for you. We have content creator, author, and model, Kelvin Davis. Kelvin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Jesse. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to talk to you today. Let's get to know you a little bit before we jump into your story. So, Kelvin, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Kelvin Davis. I am located in Columbia, South Carolina. I am a content creator, model, author. I started the journey to being in this space in 2012 when I started a blog called Notoriously Dapper. It was a blog that I created, a body positive menswear blog to help men of all shapes and sizes feel confident in themselves. And because of the body positivity movement gaining a lot of light in the media, people just wondered if it existed for men. So based off of public curiosity, I became this unbeknownst voice for male body positivity. And that's what led me into, being one of the first Black big and tall model for Target and for Gap and Lululemon. So I've been doing that. Yeah. So, and I stopped. Prior to that, I was a middle school art educator, and I taught art for 7 years, and I quit teaching in 2018 to do this job as a full-time job. And now I am an award-nominated author, model, and content creator with my second book that's out now, Be a Good Man, Not a Nice Guy. And
Wow.
I'm just really enjoying this journey and really enjoying impacting people from all different walks of life and telling them my story and helping them get courage and enough spice in their life for them to go after their own dreams.
Wow, that's so cool. Everyone's got to go check
Yeah,
out Notoriously Dapper. I mean, that's a great name as well. Tell us about this
thank
new
you.
book. What is this about? And, I'd love to hear a little bit about the process of writing it.
Of course. So it's called Be a Good Man and Not a Nice Guy. And the reason why I titled that is because there is a difference between nice guys and good men. And the main difference is what they're motivated by. Nice guys are motivated by the act and the performance of being nice, whereas good men are more motivated by purpose, which stands on their morals, principles, and values. And I like to say it as nice guys do things to be liked, and good men do things because it's right. And there's a huge difference. So when you are ever in a situation, which most of us have been in, where you're faced with the challenge of do you do what's morally right or do you do what appeases the actual crowd? Those are two difficult things, right? Because sometimes what you choose, what is morally right, is not going to please this crowd. And what you choose to please the crowd is not going to be morally right. So a good man, whenever he's faced with a challenge of that sort, he always chooses what's morally right, even though it may cost him the approval and validation and fondness of the people that he loves or people that he may not even love, right? So yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. And that's such an important thing in this day and age where I feel like we're being faced with a lot of questions like this of what is the right thing to do? When is the moment to speak up? And, it's important stuff. So very cool. I'm so excited to hear that you're doing all this amazing work. And also, the body positivity movement needs more male figures, getting out there and talking about this. This is so important on so many different levels. So thank you so much for the work you're doing. And now I'm so curious to get into your story. So, Kelvin, what is your major pain?
My major pain is struggling with my type 2 diabetes. I got diagnosed in 2021.
Mm,
And the major pain I would have to say is all of the things that come along with having type 2, right? There's different things that comes along with it. For me, I would have to say like I get a good bit of nerve pain in my hands and in the bottom of my feet. And that has a lot to do with your blood sugar levels, and it has a lot to do with, the amount of movement that you do. So I noticed that the more that I move, the more that I walk, the more that I run, the more that I actually do things that consist of physical exercise, the less pain that I have.
Hmm.
If I were to be idle, like I found myself, like sometimes when I travel, especially like on planes, I'll get like little like pins and needles and prickly feelings in the bottom of my feet. And it's can sometimes start off as like a tickling sensation, but then it starts to burn and it starts to act like kind of like to tell people it feels like fire ants, just like biting the bottom of your feet. It just like that's what it feels like, right? So I know with having that, I have to take very, 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 very special care of my body, especially on my feet. That's why a lot of people, when they have type 2, when you see people with their feet amputated or with their legs amputated, it's because they did not take care of their type 2 diabetes. They didn't take their medication, or maybe they didn't change their diet. Maybe they didn't do something to help lower their sugar levels. And it causes these micro vessels in your hands and feet to get clogged. And once they get clogged, blood stops flowing properly. So you have to remove that actual body part. And I had an aunt that ended up passing away from complications of type 2. And I remember being like 10, 11 years old and seeing her foot get amputated, then seeing her leg get amputated, and then ultimately like seeing her like pass away. And when I first got diagnosed with it, those were my biggest fears because when you see somebody and you see the direct effect that it has on them, you automatically think that having type 2 is going to be a death sentence. You're like, this is it. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm just going to have to suffer, get my legs amputated, go blind. But there is a way. And what happened for me was kind of serendipitous. Was I have two daughters. One is 15 and the other one is 10. But my youngest daughter, she was playing soccer at the time. And it was one of the moms that was on the same team. Her son was playing against my daughter's team, and she overheard me talking about, being diagnosed with type 2. And she at that time was a diabetes education specialist. So she was like, I don't mean to interrupt, but I have this information for you. So she invited me to this diabetes education class.
Well, cool.
And it was a class that really helped me understand what foods, what physical activities are the best. And she just gave like a whole run through about how you can holistically take care of type 2 diabetes and that you can still take the medication, but you don't have to be reliant on it. Like you can take it as like a supplement to help you with whatever you're going through, but you don't have to only take that and still live a terrible life, right?
Mm.
So I started taking those notes and I started implementing them into my regular life. I started cutting back on sugar, started exercising more, doing all these things. And at the time I got diagnosed, my A1C was 13. And I don't know if you know anything about like A1Cs, but an
I don't
A1C
know.
that's okay, so an A1C that's 13, I should have been basically in a diabetic coma.
Whoa.
I shouldn't have been able to form sentences and be awake and talk to my doctor. He was like, I don't understand how you're sitting here talking to me right now with an A1C of 13. But he was like, you just need to be thankful that God is on your side because anything over 10, you're usually like in very, very bad physical shape. So I was like, wow, that's crazy. Cause I felt fine. I didn't feel any different. I went in for like a normal checkup and ended up finding out this information, right?
Mm.
So, um, you know, when I started implementing all those things that I learned inside of that class, I didn't realize how bad I felt until I started to feel better.
Yeah, that's
I
interesting.
was,
Yeah.
I was like, God, I don't have any headaches anymore because I was so used to having headaches. I was just like, it was almost like it was just second nature. Like it didn't feel like pain. It was just like I have like a little bit of tension or pressure in my head, right? I literally had gotten so used to it. And I had gotten so used to feeling tired because I'm like, I'm a dad, right? I'm supposed to be tired. Like, I don't get a lot of sleep and this and that. And, all those things, when I started changing all those habits and started supplementing them with better habits, I started to feel better. I started to also lose weight. I started to also, be able to understand if I can take care of myself in this way, I can potentially save my feet, save my life, save my eyes, and save a lot of the complications that come from having type 2.
Yeah, totally. Wow. Can you give us a quick rundown of type 2 diabetes for anyone who may be less familiar?
Of course. So type 1 is the one where like you're normally are born with or it's hereditary, right? But type 2 is the one where a lot of people, especially in America, get when you have a bad diet or you over a course of time have done things to your body, whether it be eating, whether it be eating too much sugar or whatever it may be. Over time, your body has become insulin resistant and your body, is now saying, wait, we can't process the sugar the way we could whenever we were 10. We're 30 years old now. We can't process this fruit punch the way you drink it when you were 10. Something's like it's shutting down, right? So then you end up a lot of people have symptoms like frequent urination, tiredness, dehydration, all different kind of things, right? I didn't have any of the stereotypical symptoms for a type 2 diabetic. Otherwise, I would have like tried to get tested sooner. I just went in for a normal checkup because I went in for a checkup twice a year. So this was my second annual one. And I, at that time, felt fine, well, I thought, but I didn't realize that I was urinating as frequently as I was because I was peeing clear. I wasn't like peeing like yellow or anything. I just thought I was just drinking a lot of fluid, so it had to come out, right? Another thing that I realized that when I first got diagnosed was that sleep is like one of the biggest things with type 2. You end up having a lack of sleep because your body is still trying to process so much sugar throughout the actual day. So your body is working overtime. So it's hard for your organs to kind of just suppress and stop working for you to feel tired enough in order to go to actual sleep. So when I went to my diabetes education class, the lady was telling me it's like your kidneys and your pancreas. They like process all of your sugar, right? So she was like, it's the same as if you were doing this job, right? And you had to stack all these papers in alphabetical order, but you have to clock out at 12. You clock out at 12, the person that comes in behind you unorganizes everything. And then when you come back the next morning, you have to fix everything that they did. She was like, that's the way your kidneys and pancreas work. She was like, your kidneys will process the majority of your sugar, but it can only work for a certain amount of time. So when your body starts to shut down and get tired and get ready for a rest, your pancreas then starts to kick in and it starts to process the overload of the rest of the sugar that the kidneys didn't process. She was like, the bad thing is a lot of people that have it will end up snacking late at night, eating chips, eating candy, cake, jello, all different kind of things that have added sugar in it. So she was like, so you're adding more sugar on top of the sugar that the pancreas already has to process throughout that day. So when you wake up in the morning and when your kidneys are ready to go process again, they're like, why is there more sugar here? Why
Wow,
is there more sugar here?
this is a
Yeah.
great description. You're actually kind of, I mean, type 2 diabetes is like a disease that we have covered on the show, and it's a disease that I've had friends with. It's not, uh, it's not uncommon, but I will admit that I still don't quite have a great understanding of it as far as like the mechanism of what's happening in the body. And this is actually really helpful. This
Yeah.
is a great visualization. So, what role does medication play inside of what you just laid out for us? And it's insulin, I'm assuming, right?
Type 1 usually takes insulin. If you're type 2 and you're insulin dependent, that means that you usually get insulin dependent when you're type 2 when you're older.
Oh,
So
okay.
eventually I will have to take insulin, like as the older that I actually get. But the two medicines that a lot of people that have type 2 take is metformin and Farxiga. Those
Okay.
are the two. Now
Interesting.
I
And
stopped
is that
taking both of them.
you stopped taking both?
I
And
did.
are
I
those
stopped.
medications that the purpose of them is to help your body process the excess sugar?
Yes, and it's a
Okay.
help. Yeah, and it's supposed to help you lower your A1C and lower your actual blood sugar overall. So
Okay.
a lot of people that take it sometimes still have the same habits,
Mm.
and they take the medicine and they still eat like fried food and processed sugars, and sometimes the medicine doesn't work for them, but they don't understand that the medicine can usually be its effective self when you have to do your own body work as well.
Yeah, interesting.
You have to change your diet and you have to exercise a little more too.
I'm now questioning my own memory. Have we covered type 2 diabetes? Maybe we've done type 1 on the show. Now I can't remember. Either way, this is all very interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and again, like filling in some gaps in my own understanding. How were you able to go off of these medications? Is that lifestyle changes?
Yes, yes. So when I got diagnosed in February of 2021, I started taking the metformin around March of 2021. And unfortunately for me, the metformin made me sick. It made me
Mm.
nauseous. It made me dizzy. It was not a good medicine for me. So I stopped taking it shortly after. And then my doctor put me on Farxiga, I think is how you say it. Farxiga. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. I'm sorry. Yeah. But I think that's how you say it. So I started taking that, and that helped me a lot more, right? But then after that, I started going to the diabetes education classes. So I started to cut out all the processed nonsense that I was eating. I stopped eating like a lot of chips. I stopped eating just like fast food, and I would cook more, and I was really just changing my like whole diet. And around this time in March of 2021, that was when I got separated from my now ex-wife. So I had a whole life change. I was changing my health and I was changing my personal life. So it was my first time living alone as like an adult. It was my first time living alone ever. So I had the freedom to be able to go grocery shop and get whatever I wanted and cook whatever I wanted. So I really had the freedom and I had the ability to take control of my health. And when I started to make chicken thighs instead of going to Chick-fil-A, getting a fried chicken sandwich, when I started eating cauliflower rice instead of eating regular rice, when I started eating broccoli instead of eating chips, when I started doing those things, I started to notice that naturally, obviously, my body was changing by losing weight, but I started to feel better. I was feeling more upbeat. I was feeling more clear in my mind. I was a lot less irritable, a lot less tired. Overall, I felt like a completely different human.
Hmm.
And when I went back over the summer, I went back in the end of July of 2021, and the doctor, he did my blood work again, and he came back and he was like, your A1C is a 5.6. Uh,
Down
he
from
was like,
13.
yes,
Wow.
he was like, that medicine's doing good, huh? I said, yeah, I said, "Doc, I'm gonna be honest with you. I haven't been taking the medicine for like the last month because I've been really honing in on like trying to do it and discipline my actual self to like do this in like a natural way." And he was like, "So is it working out for you?" I said, "Yeah." And he was like, "Listen, whatever you're doing, just keep doing this and you'll be good." And I've been, going to different checkups here and there, and the highest has been since it dropped down to 5 was 7. It's never reached back up to like 10 ever,
Wow.
past 10. Yeah, so I just been now that it's natural for me, it's unnatural for me to like snack in the middle of the night and eat all these candy bars and chips and stuff. Like that's no longer a part of who I am. So now that I have these new habits and these new ways of eating and taking care of who I am, I can't go back. I mean, it's just who I am now. It feels natural, it feels right, it feels great. And I just don't think I could ever go back. So I really encourage everyone that's struggling, you have to just discipline who you are. It's very hard.
It's
It's very
so hard.
hard.
Yeah.
It's yeah, and people that are watching this, they're gonna be like, I know, but it's so hard. It is hard. There were so many days where I wanted to just give in and go to McDonald's or Sonic and just get me something to eat. But you have to just fight it. And you can fight it by going on walks, you can read, you can do anything other. I would distract myself with anything other than that. Because I realized I was like, food to me is something that I like to do when I'm bored. I like to eat when I'm bored. But when I'm bored, I should maybe go on a walk. I should maybe go to the gym. I should maybe read. I should maybe go do something else instead of just trying to find a snack.
Yeah, so interesting. Discipline is a really important topic when we're talking about chronic illness. And there's elements here that I relate to. I have mast cell activation syndrome, and I have to be on a special low histamine diet. And I end up cooking almost every meal. And the more I eat out, the sicker I get. And
Yeah,
when you start to look at the ingredients and everything and realize that sugar is in everything, it's
everything.
astonishing. And so, talk me through the parameters of your diet. I'm assuming low sugar, and it sounds like maybe low carbs as well if you're replacing rice with cauliflower rice.
Yes. So it's definitely low sugar. It's kind of low carb. I have to be honest. Cauliflower rice tastes horrible. It's so bad. It's so bad. Listen, it's so bad. It's so bad. So bad. So there are times where I'll just have regular rice, but I'll have like a smaller portion of it.
Okay.
Cause I just can't do it. There's some days I'm just like, I just can't do it. Like it's not today is not the day. That I'm not gonna punish myself by eating cauliflower rice. I'm just not gonna do it. So so I will have to say that whenever I started doing is that I don't double up on the carbs. So like during Thanksgiving and stuff, I used to have mac and cheese, uh, rice and gravy, and like some kind of starch, whether it be a sweet potato or like a mashed, right? I was like having all three. So now I choose one. I'm like,
Okay.
which one is a priority? Mac and cheese is always number one. Mac and cheese is always number one. So I pick mac and cheese every time. So every time I have a choice of mac and cheese, rice and gravy, a mashed or a sweet potato, I'm like, I'm going with mac and cheese 100% of the time. So that's pretty much how I do it now. And the ultimate parameters of when I eat, especially when I eat out, is I ask them, how much sugar is in this? Or how much sugar do you think is in it? Because I just need to know. Because there's just so many things that like you'll go to a restaurant and there's just so much added sugar and stuff. I'm like, well, can I just get that on the side? So I can just like portion it out the way that I want to, right? Because I don't want it like dripped in like this whatever sugary sauce, and then I eat it and my like blood sugar spikes to like 230, and I'm like getting dizzy and I can't drive home now, right?
Mm,
So
yeah.
which has happened to me numerous times. And I've had to like literally wait outside of like a restaurant and wait for like the dizziness to calm
Mhm.
and basically wait for my blood sugar to drop in order for me to drive myself back home. It's definitely happened. And I would say the other parameter is whenever I first got diagnosed, I was wearing a continuous glucose monitor, which is like
Mhm.
a Freestyle Libre or like a Dexcom kind of thing. And what I would do is I would eat certain things and I would monitor how my body would respond to it, right? So I would look at it and I'd be like, okay, so I ate this at 12 and my blood sugar spiked at 1. So I know that I can't have this, you
Mm.
know,
You
I
got
need to
some
like
data.
probably cut that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I started to do that and that helped me weed out certain things that I thought were kind of healthy for me, but maybe were not the best. Like I can only eat Cosmic Crisp apples are Honeycrisp apples. I can't eat Gala apples or the like green ones. They like
Oh,
spike.
wow.
They
Too
like
much sugar.
spike. Yeah, they spike it high,
Well,
quick.
luckily, Honeycrisp apples are the best apples.
They
So
really are.
that worked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, it did. It did. It did. It did. It
And
did.
Cosmic Crisps, I think, close second, but
Yeah,
Honeycrisps are the
yeah.
best. Yeah.
They really, really are. Yeah. So, for me, the parameters are mostly to not buy things that have added sugar in it. And I have a bone to pick with Heinz or any other condiment
Yeah.
company. Why do they charge extra for no added sugar? I don't understand. You're charging me extra because it doesn't have an extra ingredient. I feel like I should be charged the extra if it has extra ingredients. I remember the first time I bought ketchup and because it said no added sugar. I said, oh, that's perfect. I need ketchup with no added sugar. Why is there sugar in ketchup anyway?
Mm.
It doesn't even need to be in there anyway, right? Isn't it just
Yeah.
like tomatoes and vinegar and other stuff? I'm like, it doesn't even need to be in there. I buy it and it's almost like $6 or $7. I'm like, why is it so expensive? So I go look at the other one and I'm like, wait, the one that has the high fructose corn syrup is like $2 or $3.
Mm.
I'm like, what a markup for me to be healthy? This is crazy. Heinz, I have a bone to pick. I have a bone to pick. I have a
Yeah.
bone to pick.
Totally. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, you've got me thinking about a friend of mine who had diabetes. I don't know if it was type 1 or type 2, but I don't know the full story here because I didn't find out about this until it was too late, but he lost access to his insulin. So I don't know if it was type 1 or not, and he passed away. And it's just like, wait, what? Like I had no idea this was happening. I got wind of it at the funeral of like, wait, a friend of mine died because he didn't get a medicine that he needed. Like that's unbelievably wrong. That we live in a society where your health costs more than you have and you die. Like that's, I mean, it's like the floor bottomed out under me. I just couldn't believe, I was so upset. And I wish that I'd known about it, because when a friend is in need in that way, you gather your community and you help them.
Exactly.
And I don't have the full story. I don't know what happened there. I just like have little, just enough detail to be like, wait, is this what happened? And that's what I think happened, but I'm not even 100% sure. But just the idea that something like that could be even possible, which, things like this are happening every day in our country where people's health needs are not being met because of money and they are suffering or dying. And it's just not okay, And yeah, for you, it's like, this is on the same scale, a different end of the scale, but it's the same idea. It's like my health costs more money. That's lame. Come on, Heinz.
Yeah. Literally. I'm like any condiment company, I'm like, why do you guys charge extra for you to take stuff out?
Right.
Why doesn't make any sense?
You're doing less. Charge less.
Or for me, it doesn't make sense, right? I went out with my youngest daughter. She is a natural vegetarian. She just naturally just doesn't like meat. Like the only meat she will partake in eating is bacon and chicken nuggets. But that's it. She doesn't eat like steak or like she doesn't eat that kind of stuff. She would rather have a fruit bowl and acai bowl, Brussels sprouts, those kind of things, right? So we're at McDonald's and she's like, I don't want fries. I just want extra fruit. I'm like, okay, I'll tell them. I'm like, of course, the extra fruit, that's cheap. I asked for extra fruit. They're like, it's going to be like extra. I'm like, extra for what? They're like, for the apples. It's like, you're going to charge me extra for apples? They were like, yeah, it's going to be this much. I said, so you're telling me that it's cheaper for me to get a large fry than it is for me to get a small thing of apples for my now at that time, she was like 6. Now she's 10. But I was like, for a 6-year-old? And they were like, yes. So make this make sense. I don't understand how a lot of fast food companies, when you want to substitute like a fruit bowl or something else, there's always an upcharge.
Yeah.
I'm like, the fruit bowl should be free and you should charge me more to get fries. Because you actually have to cook the fries. The fries have to be in a fryer. You got to shake them. You got to add salt to them. You got to put them in the bag. You actually have to do physical work. You just have to cut the fruit up and put it on the side. That's it. That's 3 less steps.
Yeah, make it make sense. It doesn't make
It
sense.
doesn't make any sense. It makes me so mad. I'm like, so it's cheaper for me to get fried potatoes than it is for me to get fresh cut fruit. That makes no sense.
Makes
It
no
makes no sense.
sense.
It's
Yeah,
horrible.
absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
when you start to value your health in this way and make these sorts of choices, everything that you eat is more expensive. Everything.
Yes.
Like or when if you want to eat really clean, really healthy, really organic, it's so expensive. It's so
Yes.
expensive. It's really frustrating. But
It
I
is.
I am someone who does it and just sort of eats the cost and literally.
Yeah.
And it's just like this is what I have to do because I'm prioritizing my health. And with the chronic illness, I really don't feel like I have a choice.
Yeah.
And it's just something that I've gotten so used to it at this point. I don't even think about it anymore. It's just like this money is for food and it's going to be
Exactly.
expensive. But then I
Yeah.
I eat out way less. And cooking your own food is in general just going to be cheaper, even if you're cooking really expensive produce. But
Yeah.
it's frustrating. But it is what it is. We live
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
backwards world in so many ways.
It does, man. It's so backwards. It's so weird, And it's like kids make a lot of sense of the world, right? Because when both of my kids were smaller, they would say things that as an adult, you don't even think about. You're like, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. You're right. That's
Yeah,
crazy. Right?
totally.
So it's like if a 6 and 7 year old or like somebody that's in elementary school or middle school can understand, hey, I don't think it's right for people to charge people this amount of money to just survive.
Mm,
I think an adult can have enough common sense to say the same thing, but there's too many layers to it. There's too many people that benefit from this, and then those people benefit from this, and then those people benefit from this. It's kind of like a
mhm.
it's like a everlasting ladder, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I'm curious about this before and after of you, before and after this diagnosis. And you've already mentioned that the moment of diagnosis, all you can think about is what you've seen in your own family, your own history there. And I can only imagine how terrifying that must have been. But
Mhm.
then you go through this process of developing this really intense discipline so that you don't even need medication anymore because you're keeping your blood sugar levels low enough just through diet, which is really impressive. And that's quite a transition to make in such a short amount of time. We're talking like maybe 4 years, maybe 4 years and change. So
Yeah.
tell me about you before and after this moment and how you've changed.
Okay. I related to the good man versus nice guy theory that I like to use, right? So prior to me starting this journey, I was a stereotypical nice guy in every way. And what I mean by that is nice guys have a different approach to everything in their life when it comes to health, relationships, friendships, discipline, everything, right? They always want to choose the easy way. They don't want to take accountability. They like to weasel their way out of things. They do things out of the approval and validation rather than doing the things that are right. So in my book, I have a chapter called Go to Health. And in the book, I talk about how when I was a nice guy, I chose easy now, hard later. And when I started the transition to good man, I chose hard now, easy later. And what I mean by that is at that time in my life, I chose the easy way out, which was fast food, eating bad, watching a lot of pornography, just doing things that were not in the best interest for my mental, spiritual, physical, or mental health in any way, shape, or form, right?
Mm,
Nobody can sit here and argue with me telling me that a guy that, or any person that eats fast food and processed foods all day, every day, watches, pornography for a dopamine hit, doesn't get up and move their body on a regular basis. You cannot tell me that if somebody does those 3 things on a consistent basis, that they are healthy in any way. You just can't convince me because it's not true. And I'll tell you why, because I was the one that lived it. And once I got on the other side of it and started to choose hard now, easy later, which the hard part is being disciplined. The hard part is when you're bored, hey, don't leave yourself to your own vices. Go do something that is going to help you be better mentally, spiritually, or physically. Pick one, right? whether you're going to read, whether you're going to watch something that's educational, whether you're going to go on a walk, or maybe you pick up the phone and call that person that you've been avoiding for a long period of time, right? So for me, it was that making that hard pivot from easy now to hard now. And the hardest part of it is understanding the decisions and choices that you made have led you down this path.
Yeah.
Taking that accountability and taking that sense of ownership that you are the one that chose to eat all this fried food. You are the one that chose to eat these snacks at 1 in the morning when you should have been trying to go to sleep. You were the one that was doing this and doing that, right? So once I took accountability for my own health and for my own shortcomings, that was when I realized now I realize what the problem is, but now I can figure out a solution to it. And that's the ultimate game changer. Once you have the problem, now you can find the solution to try to solve it. And that's the biggest issue that a lot of folks don't want to face the problem long enough to find the actual solution to it. They just want to put a band aid over or mask it. And that's just going to hinder you in the long run. And that's what unfortunately happened to my aunt. She ended up passing away because she wasn't disciplined enough to change who she was as a person. Being that young and watching your aunt, who you always knew as being funny and hilarious and just this great, like, ray of sunshine, watching her over like a decade plus just literally shrink as like a human. Like first, like it was first her toes amputated, right? And then after that, it was her whole foot. After her foot, it was her like leg from like the knee down. And then after that, it was the whole leg. And then seeing her in a hospital bed, eating Burger King, knowing that she's gonna die, like that to me just didn't sit well in my spirit as a kid.
Hmm.
I'm like, who is the person that is bringing her Burger King right now? Because I'm ready to find him. Like I'm ready to fight. Like who is bringing her a Whopper with cheese when she's fighting for her life because of health issues? This is not something you bring somebody to eat, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So it was like moments that stick in my head, especially in the Black community. A lot of Black and brown people don't have access to adequate healthcare, don't have access to adequate health education, or all that stuff, right? So when you have a lot of Black and brown people that are diagnosed with type 2 or type 1 or any kind of illness or anything that can be treatable, a lot of times they end up having worse complications from it because they can't access the things that they need to.
Hmm.
A lot of them live in food deserts, is what they call it here. Food deserts where there's no grocery stores within a 10-mile radius of you. There's only like uh, check and go places, a Chinese restaurant, gas stations, and fast food chains. There's no actual like, there's no Whole Foods, there's no Publix, there's no grocery stores within a 10-mile radius of you. So a lot of people, Black and brown people, live in food deserts and they don't have the access to adequate good food, number one, let alone healthcare, and let alone three, the actual information and education to help them take care of themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. Uh, Another one of those things is just like, just out of balance in our society. That's just such a
Oh
tragedy.
yeah.
It's so upsetting. I'm curious about your body positivity journey. Did you say 2012 was when you started doing that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that's like predating this type 2 diabetes journey. I'm curious what brought you to that, and I'd love to hear about how that started. And I'm also curious how type 2 diabetes has changed that journey because you've already mentioned that all the changes you've made with your diet and with exercise and, with discipline have changed your body. So I'm curious if that has altered this body positivity this journey that you've been on.
Yeah, of course. When I started in 2012, I started it because I saw that there was a gap in the menswear and in the men's fashion industry. I noticed that the women's industry, they had curvier models, they had bigger women, they had it all, right? But the men's industry was still using just only a certain body type and skin tone. And I was like, how come the women's movement can catch on, but the men's movement, we're just stuck stagnant looking at these same faces over and over again? So I was like, I created that space to try to shake the fashion industry a little bit to be like, hey, men suffer from body image issues too. We want representation of all different sorts. Like, we want to see a guy that's not like super jacked or super skinny. Like, we want to see a guy that has a little bit of chub on him, has like a little bit of weight on him, right? So when I started that journey, it was to help add that sense of representation that I longed for as a kid. Because I remember being a kid shopping in the husky section for clothes and not seeing anything that like was appeasing to me clothing wise, and b like looking at some of the ads around the stores and not seeing anybody that looked like me. So when I started that journey, it was the journey to open up the eyes of the fashion industry to not only see me, but to see their whole demographic as men and how men of all shapes and sizes want to feel confident in who they are. And once I started to pick up and people like, different brands started to hire different models of different sizes, including me, I realized that these are just the words of the internet. These are not my words because I am not trying to gas myself up. But but a lot of people on the internet see me as being the pioneer for the male body positivity movement and leading this path of, guiding other fashion brands and the fashion industry to be more inclusive of all body types when it comes to the male standard.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
I'm not saying it's true or not, but I am saying that I did have a large hand in it.
Yeah.
I did have a
Well,
large hand in it. Yeah.
that's
Right?
fantastic. I mean, that's a wonderful thing to have a hand in. That's got to be
Yeah.
really, really rewarding as well. Uh,
Yes.
so cool. Yeah. Okay. And then you get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And then how does that shift?
So that shifted. So that is a funny thing because for me, that was when I started to understand and when I started to realize that the body positivity movement, as inclusive as it was supposed to be, the body positivity movement was now starting to exclude people for being healthy and losing weight. To me, that didn't sit right with me. So, in my eyes, I was like, a movement that was supposed to be founded on everybody should love themselves no matter how they look is now telling people that they shouldn't lose weight or they shouldn't be like this or they shouldn't do this. That to me was like those two things are mutually exclusive. You can't have both. If you're going to be inclusive of everybody, it means everybody. That means that the skinny girl has the right to be just as body positive as the girl that weighs 280 pounds. Just because they're different weights does not mean that they can't love themselves and their bodies. That doesn't make sense to me. So that's when I started to understand, okay, people are using the word body positive in order to only be exclusive to a certain body type. And that body type is a bigger body type, which is fine. That's fine. But at the same time, if you're going to be truly body positive, you have to understand that body positivity is for everybody, every age, every race, every gender, every size, everyone, right? You can't pick and choose who gets to be body positive. That's not the way it works. So I caught a lot of backlash, I would say, from the body positivity community that I helped build because
Wow.
I'm on the internet saying, "Hey, I was overweight and my doctor told me that I had type 2 diabetes. So if I want to live longer, I have to change my diet and I have to exercise more and I have to be more aware of what I do to my body. Because I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm only responsible for me and I have two kids to raise. And if I continue down the path that I am, they're not going to have a dad. And you mother oh, wait, am I allowed to
Please, yes.
okay, 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 all right, all right. And you motherfuckers are not gonna raise my kids. You're not
Yeah.
gonna raise them. So I have to be alive and I have to be well enough to raise my kids so they can one day grow old enough so they can be parents of their own and raise their own kids, right? So I can't worry about what these people think about the body positivity era. Fuck them. If they want to like be all like, well, Kelvin used to be so I still am. I'm just body positive and healthy now. I was body positive and unhealthy, but now I'm body positive and healthy. I can be both. I can be both, right? When I lost a lot of the weight, a lot of people would make comments like, "Oh, you started to disappear. You disappeared on us." I'm like, "I'm still here. I'm not disappearing. I'm losing weight because I'm naturally changing my diet." But then when I started to work out more to gain more muscle, I felt like I, and this is weird, I felt like I got a lot of hate for losing weight, but I get a lot of love for gaining muscle. Isn't that right?
Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially from women. Like women love when I like post videos of myself at work and now whatever. They're like, oh, like look at your arms and chest. But it's like, if I'm losing weight, I'm like, oh, that's anti-body positive. But if I'm gaining muscle, that's awesome. Like, I'm so proud of you. It's
Yeah,
like, damn.
fascinating. And you're so right that the goal should be that everyone can love their bodies. I mean, that is the goal. Is like we live in this really superficial society, and we have these images flashed at us all the time about what we're, supposed to look like. And let's broaden that scope and make it so that we all can be comfortable in our own skin and love our own bodies. Like that is really, really, really important. And that is the message. And here you are as an advocate for that, going through a natural change to stay alive, because you
Yes.
have been diagnosed with a disease that if you do nothing, you may die. And you have already seen your aunt go through this. You have a real life example of what you want to do, what you want to do different. And then you're advocating for yourself, you're following that path yourself, and you still love yourself. And then all these voices outside are so dissonant and sort of like you're being hit with this anger for doing something that is absolutely right for you. It's so interesting because, I do public work as well, with this podcast and my other content creation, and people have such strong opinions and they have to voice them, like I make videos for a guitar pedal company, and it's very fun. And I sometimes make really experimental sounds, and sometimes people don't like them. And they really want you to know, like if I see something that I don't like, I don't think I've ever left a negative comment on someone's video for any reason. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I can't remember ever doing this of being like, wow, I dislike this so much that I need to make sure you know that I want you to dislike it and dislike yourself. Like what is that?
Exactly.
It's so strange. But
It's so strange.
But, I also firmly believe that as a content creator, if you're getting negative comments, that means that what you're doing is working. Because if you're not getting any negative comments, you're probably not reaching the audience that you want to reach. So you have to take that risk.
That's very, very true.
Yeah.
It's true.
But
It's true. No,
it is something that I wish that
you're
we
not
could,
lying.
something I wish we could adjust. You're making me think of Lizzo, who I love. I follow Lizzo on TikTok, and she's, huge in the body positivity movement, and over the last year or two lost a ton of weight from lifestyle changes. And I have seen her get so much hate for that, and it's a sort of a similar story of I have really put myself out there to say like this size body is beautiful and I love this. And then the size changes and shrinks. And it's like, well, I still love this body too. And now I feel, healthy in a different way. And both of those things are beautiful. Both of those things are wonderful. And they aren't mutually exclusive. And it's really hard when there's no nuance on the internet. It's just like, this is either good or it's bad. And that's just not true. It's like both of these things can be true. Both of these stages of my journey can be beautiful. And new information comes in. I change the way I'm living. That's beautiful. That's still beautiful. So yeah, it is something that I think that that needs to change, and you're out there not only fighting this body positivity fight, but now you're also still here, still fighting that fight from a different perspective. You have all this discipline now that you've learned from this, chronic illness, and your message has changed because your journey has changed, and
Cool.
that's
Yeah.
still good. It doesn't need to be a good or a bad. This is all good. It's all beautiful representation. And I'm sure that you are reaching people with that message. I'm sure that there are people out there who do not think, oh, Kelvin lost weight, that means he's not one of us anymore. I'm sure there are people out there that say, like, hey, Kelvin got diagnosed with a disease and changed his lifestyle, and he's still out there, sharing his story and sharing this message of positivity, and that's still beautiful. I'm sure there's people that see it that way, and a
Yeah.
group of people having a reaction to something can sometimes make it feel true, even when it is not. Even if let's say that you're reaching like 100 people with a message, 10 people all hit you with this one comment of
Yeah.
negativity, it would be so easy to think, oh, that's true, that's real. When maybe there's 90
That's true.
people
Yeah.
that are like, wow, this is still beautiful, I still love this. Even if it's 90%, it's
It's
still so easy to fall into the 10% didn't like it. Um, but that sort of
yeah.
ties into this, like, nice man versus good man that we started this conversation talking about, is like, when you have the moral conviction and you feel something inside, you
Hmm.
need to live by that. And it's
Yeah.
not about appeasing the other voices and allowing these other voices that tell you how you should be to win. It's about finding the internal conviction and living in the way that aligns with your body, aligns with your illness. And our bodies are sort of, they sort of become science experiments. You talk about wearing this like continuous glucose monitor, eating a certain type of apple, and it tells you that you need to lower your blood sugar versus another type of apple. Like, you're getting real
Yeah.
data and making real adjustments based off of that. Like, you're sort of treating yourself like a science project and trying to head towards this ultimate version of you, the version that's alive, because you're
Oh
looking
yeah.
at like life and death choices, the version of you that's able to thrive and be there for your daughters. How could that be anything but good? That is a very, very good, very beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Do you ever think thoughts like this in your public work, in the sort of public reaction you get to things? Does it sometimes get in your head, and do you have to sort of check yourself and try to stay on track?
It definitely can get in your head, but I live by this motto that I started going to therapy in 2021, and it changed my world. I had no idea therapy could do so much good for a person's brain. I had no idea. I went my whole life without going. So when I turned 33, I was like, let me go for the first time, right? But one of the things that I started to realize when I went to therapy was a lot of men, and I say it in my book too. A lot of men always say, I will die for my family. I'll die for my family. I'll take a bullet for my family. I'll die for my daughters. But I like having the brain that I have that's like a very creative brain. I was like, but how many men will actually change who they are to live for their family?
Hmm.
Like, you say you'll die for your family, so you'll put yourself in harm's way and take a bullet for your family, but you won't stop eating fried food every day to live better for your family? You won't stop doing this to live for your family? And that's whenever I'm faced with those negative comments, whenever I'm faced with negativity in my life, I think about often how I should react as a father, because I know my daughters watch me a lot, and they are more capable of doing what they watch me do rather than what I tell them to actually do. So I
Hmm.
know that when I get frustrated, when I have bouts of anger, when I have bouts of frustration, how I act is dependent on how not only they're going to act, but also how they expect their future boyfriends or husbands to act during a situation that is frustrating or angry. If I get mad and I'm always yelling and frustrated and cursing, and they see that, when they have a boyfriend that does the same thing, they're going to think it's normal, and that could end up being something greater than it needs to be. So I know as a father, whenever I see a negative comment, whenever somebody, when I feel disrespected, I have to handle it the right way. I have to handle it in a way where my daughters can be like, "Oh, okay, daddy handled business, but he was respectful, he was kind, he wasn't like a tyrant," right? Now, obviously, there are times and situations where you have to lose your patience and do things that you normally are outside of your character. But those are very, 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 very rare moments, right? But a lot of the times I either ignore the negative comments or I'll respectfully engage with them. I'll be like, well, like I had somebody comment on one of my posts. I was like, you're just using this nice guy, good man thing as just a way to sell books. Like, you're probably not even a good man. And I literally was like, you know what? I'm not even, I was like, let me just engage with this person respectfully. I was like, as a former nice guy, I can tell you that the ways that I responded to certain things in the past are not going to be the way I responded to them now. So, as a good man, I'm asking you, what made you feel the need to come on the internet and say this to me? Crickets. No, no response. Nothing. Days, weeks go by. I'm looking. I'm like, oh, he's kind of quiet. Where, where is he? Right? These little keyboard warriors. Right? So a lot of people have a lot of guts on the internet, but what I live by is that almost 100% of the things people say on the internet, they would never say to your face. So it doesn't even matter.
Oh, I totally agree. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I,
they
I,
would
I,
never.
yeah. And to each his own. And like, I have a friend who makes content who loves arguing with people in the comments. He loves it. He just thrives on it. I never engage. I never engage.
Yeah,
If there's like a sexist or a racist comment, I'll delete it. Otherwise, I just leave it and never touch it and do nothing.
yeah,
And some of them make me laugh. Sometimes I
yeah,
get trolled in a way that makes me laugh, but in general, I just completely ignore it. And
yeah,
something I'm really grateful for is that this podcast, the responses that I get are really, really incredible from people who listen to this show. Um,
yeah.
I I think only maybe once or twice in like 5 years of doing this have I really been trolled in a way that was, and it wasn't even about me. It's like if someone says something rude about one of my guests, I'll delete it because it just like our guests are sharing their souls with us and like it's just so
Yeah.
valuable. But, in general, I feel like the people that are drawn to this show are really kind of wonderful, empathetic people. So thank you for listening, everybody.
Yeah,
um,
yeah. Yes,
well, I have one more question for you. So,
of course.
yeah, you've been through this really wonderful transition and you've learned so much in the last, 4+ years since getting this diagnosis. If you could hop in a time machine right now and hop back in time to the moment when you were diagnosed, remembering back to the fear that you felt, thinking about your aunt, thinking about the future, being so uncertain about what was next, what words from the future would you share with your past self?
That's good. Man. The words I would share to myself would be, you're going to be fine. I would tell myself that you're going to be fine. And all these things that you're worried about that's causing you more stress, that's making your blood sugar go even higher, because a lot of people don't know that, like, when you're stressed, your cortisol level goes up, which directly impacts your blood sugar level. So
Interesting.
there's been a lot of times where I'm like fasting and I haven't eaten for like a day or like so, and I'm fasting and my blood sugar's high, and I'm like, why my blood sugar high? But it's because of stress.
Hmm.
And I have been a witness to how stress and how your cortisol level can spike your blood sugar levels. So I would tell myself, you're going to be fine. And as long as you're able to take accountability and take responsibility for who you are and the body that you live in, you'll be fine. And I think if I would have been able to tell myself right there in that moment that, it would have saved me a lot of grief, a lot of anxiety, a lot of wasted months worrying on what if my foot gets amputated, what if my leg gets amputated, what if like I'm never able to run and chase my daughters around again. Like, your mind just kind of ruminates to the worst possible situation, right? Because when you get diagnosed, you're like, well, how long have I had it? Because you don't know. Because if I felt this good this whole time, has my A1C been 13 for a year and a half?
Mhm.
That's not good,
Yeah.
right? So you start thinking about that. So I would definitely tell myself to relax and it's going to be fine. And I think a lot more people should tell themselves that when they get bad news firsthand, because when we get bad news firsthand, whether it be medically, romantically, or anything, right? Our first natural human instinct is to think about all the worst possible scenarios that negative is going to have on us.
Mm.
Instead of us just taking a deep breath and being like, you know what? I'm going to be okay. I got diagnosed with this, but I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be fine. And you just have to take each day at a time and understand that each day that you wake up and you have another chance to get better. And you just keep going. And it's not over till it's over. So keep going.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Kelvin, thank you so much for coming on the show today. What an incredible episode. You've done such a great job. Thank you for being so open with us and sharing your story with us. Please tell our listeners where we can go to connect with you online if people want to check out Notoriously Dapper, your new book, your other book, anything at all that you want to share. Please let us know where to go.
Of course. You can go on Instagram at Kelvin Davis, all one word. Notoriously is where you can find both of my books. The first book is Notoriously Dapper, How to Be a Modern Day Gentleman with Manner, Style, and Body Confidence. And the second one is Be a Good Man and Not a Nice Guy, A True Guide to Masculinity. They're both found there. And then you can buy my book wherever books are sold, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, any local bookstore, Amazon, anywhere. And yeah, and you can connect with me on Instagram or Facebook or anything. I would love to chat with you all. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so glad that we were connected and were able to record this today. This was so much fun. I can't wait to share this with our audience. Thank you for coming on Major Pain.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Major Pain. I'm Jesse Mercury, your host and the creator of this podcast. Artwork by Egg Salad Salad. Podcast production provided by Mary Chan of Organized Sound Productions, with editing and post-production from Katie Pagich and show notes writing from Shannon Kirk. Our theme music is the song Time Machine from my synth-pop album Sci-Fi, now streaming everywhere. Join our community on social media. We're on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, all at Major Pain Podcast. Our email address is majorpainpodcast@gmail.com. Learn more about this podcast and browse our collection of episodes at majorpainpodcast.com.